Howdy, roofers, and welcome to Roofer Growth Hacks, a podcast that's dedicated to highlighting those in the roofing industry, learning how they overcame growth challenges with creative growth hacks, and connecting them with the others in the roofing industry. I'm your host, Chris Hunter, founder and chief marketing officer of roofingsites.com. I'm also the author of the Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. Welcome to our latest workshop. It is the Ultimate Guide to High Conversion Websites for Roofers. All right. This is something that is very deep in my wheelhouse. I've been doing website design and building websites really since about 1998. And that really dates me. Right. But basically, since I took a class at Texas A&M University, learned how to build websites inside of Notepad and using just straight up code, HTML code. So let's go ahead and jump right into this, okay? I see mistakes with websites all the time. I run across them. You know, we assess about 4 to 5 different roofers' websites every single day, okay? And I see major mistakes, which is costing them a lot of money, okay? So let me ask y'all, right? What would it cost your business if 1,000 qualified leads comes to your website, hits your website this month, but they didn't call you? Or maybe you get 1 or 2 phone calls. That's what happens every single day, right? Every single day, all across roofers across the United States. They think they have a great website. They've hired a web designer, you know, who wanted to make a pretty website, okay? But the problem is that those pretty websites just don't convert. So what we're going to go over today is really the fix to that. And we're going to talk about this high conversion website idea here. Okay. Now, what is a high conversion website? Before I get into that, let's imagine that those same 1,000 visitors that came to your website, out of those, let's say 10% of those converted into a phone call, right? Or a form filled out or something. Okay. What would that do for your business? Well, I guarantee that would be $1 million business if that happened. Okay. If your sales are on point, right, for out of those 100 phone calls that you're converting 25 of those into actual jobs. Okay. You're going to have at least $1 million business. So therefore your website is costing you millions of dollars if you're not converting at a 10% or higher. Now in this workshop, we're going to go over some common mistakes. We're going to go over one specific instance where I ran across, and that's the whole reason I did this workshop. I ran across a client's, stats, and what I was seeing was very close to a 20% conversion rate. So even higher than what I'm talking about here at a 10% conversion rate. Okay. So I looked at their stats for this entire year. We've sent them around 5,000 visitors. They have converted well over 200 of those. Okay. Into phone calls. All right. Well, I say well over 200. I'm doing the math wrong in my head here, but when I looked at it, it was very close to a 20%. It was like 19%. Okay. So whatever the math is on that, I had that calculated out before we jumped into all this, but we're going to show you their website and really how we built it and how it and why we did every single piece of these. Okay. I usually leave this or put this at the very beginning because, who am I? Why should you pay attention to me? My name is Chris Hunter. I am the author of the Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer of roofingsites.com. I am a member. We as roofingsites.com are a member of the NRCA, RCAT, HARCA, National Roofing Contractors Association, Roofing Contractors Association of Texas, and Houston Area Roofing Contractors Association. Okay. I've been doing SEO since 1998. If you do the history on that and look back, and you'd see that Google wasn't even launched yet at that time. And that's very true. My first website that I ranked was actually on Yahoo. And that I know this whole thing super dates me, but I've been doing this gig for a really long time. Okay. Random fact about me is that I love backpacking in the mountains with my sons. Both of them are scouts, and we're highly involved in our scout troop. We went on my 3rd trip with these boys just recently in the mountains this summer. Had a blast. It was hard. It gets harder the older that you get, but it was a lot of fun. Okay. We're on a mission to double the size of 100 roofing companies by 2028. Okay. That's literally what we work on all day, every day is how do we grow roofing companies? One of the things that we're going to talk about here today can exponentially grow your company. Okay. So before we get into all that, let's talk about the system, right? This is the what I wrote my book on, the ultimate guide to digital marketing for roofers. It's the four-step, system, the four pillar system, right? On how to get your marketing right. All right. So the first part is your reputation. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I want to jump into this and I don't want to run out of time here. But your reputation, the base pillar, your foundation, nothing else is going to work inside of marketing unless your reputation is solid. Okay. All right. Next is reach, getting in front of more people today than knew about you yesterday. This is what most people come to us about, right? At the very beginning. And, these are things like search engine optimization, Facebook ads, Google ads, local service ads, social media, content marketing, just all of these different things. But just know that this is an important piece to your marketing, but it's not everything. Okay. The next pillar is resell. You're 8 times more likely to sell to somebody who has purchased from you in the past, but yet most roofers that we talk to have never once gone back to their database of customers to ask them for to anything else like selling gutters or windows or siding, solar. I mean, you name it. There's all sorts of things that you can sell. Most of the Fortune 500 companies understand this principle, which is why they email you. Okay. If you notice, a monthly newsletter is in here. And to me, that's the ultimate leverage tool to keep you in front of your own clients, your own customers. Okay. Next, referral. Almost every business in the entire world is built initially off of referrals. But yet, when I talk to roofers, roofing companies, very few of them actually have a referral program in place. All of their employees know about it. All of their customers know about it. It's published on their website. They send out periodic updates about referrals and ask for referrals on a regular basis. Very few companies actually do this. Okay. Now, this is each one of these pillars are important, and each one of these pillars can massively grow your company. But if you put all four of these together, right, and this is what I wrote my book on here, if you put all four of these together, you have a highly, highly converting framework for your marketing. Okay. Again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Just know that this is an evergreen system because as things stop working in any of these pillars, we take it out. Great for instance of this is the Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages, when I first went into business in the early 2000s, I was told by everyone at the Chamber of Commerce, "Oh, you've got to get a Yellow Pages ad," right? I had 0 phone calls from my Yellow Pages ad that I ran for a year. Okay, 0. And so it's never once been in my framework for how to do marketing. Okay, all right. So let's keep moving on here. How do we build this high conversion website? Well, I've got a meme here from Coach Saban. If you don't know who Coach Saban is, I'm sorry. He is the most one of the or is the most winning, right behind Bear Bryant. I don't know. Anyways, he was Alabama head coach, very winningest type of a coach, right? And he did an interview on 60 Minutes here, and they asked him how he won so much and how his players loved him and how he was so successful. And he said, focus on the process, but master the fundamentals. Okay. And so we're going to talk about the fundamentals here, right? Um, first, first and foremost, right? And this is how we build a website. This is our process here. Now, this is the company, by the way, and I'm pointing over here because that's on this screen that you're looking at right now. But this is the website that is converting at almost a 20% conversion rate. Okay, and we're going to talk about each of the different elements eventually here. But what I want you to know is that we start with a framework called StoryBrand. Okay, StoryBrand was a framework and actually started with a book written by a very smart marketer named Donald Miller. Okay, and basically the premise of the StoryBrand framework is to most websites, okay, when you go to them, they talk about themselves. Okay. They talk about how great that they are, and they talk about, how long they've been in business and all that kind of stuff. But I guarantee, right, that nobody cares about you. What they care about is really how can you solve their problems? Okay. So the story brain framework is a way to position you away from talking about yourself, right? And positioning yourself as the hero in the story, right? Which is the where the story comes in, and positions the visitor, your customer, as the hero, and you're just there as a guide. Okay. So in the story brand framework for websites, we don't really talk a whole lot about ourselves or our customers, right? Our clients don't talk about themselves until a little bit further on, because guess what? People just don't care. They want to know three things. And this is the grunt test, that you have to answer these three questions within 3 seconds. And why is it 3 seconds? Because people's attention spans are horrible these days, and they're just getting worse. Okay, so you have literally 3 seconds to answer these three questions until people bounce. Okay, what are these three questions? Tell me what you do, how can you help me, and how can I get it? Answer those three things within 3 seconds of people coming to your website. Now, Donald Miller says that if you actually do this, okay, and answer it properly and so forth, and implement this on the first fold of your website, and we'll talk about that, what that is here in a second. But if you do this, that your conversions will change most likely at least by 20%. Okay, so you get a 20% increase just by fixing those three things. Okay, super, super easy thing to do, but yet when I look at websites, and again, we look at 4 to 5 of them every single day, very few of them actually do anything even close to this. They talk about themselves, right? And that's, that's basically like going to a party and getting stuck in the corner with someone just talking about themselves. Okay. We don't ever want to do that, right? We're always like backing out, trying to get away from there. But, you know, um, we want to make sure that we're not only attracting people that we can help, but also just answering those three questions real quick. Okay, what's a first fold? First fold is in terminologies of newspapers, right? Way back in the day when newspapers were, some of y'all might still have newspapers that you get. I don't. I haven't for a really, really long time. But the newspapers would put their biggest stories on in the first fold of the newspaper, because that's where it would stand in the newspaper stand. Okay, and that's what sold the newspaper. So the most important stuff was right there in the first fold. Well, in the digital world, what the first fold is basically before people have to scroll. Okay. And on a laptop, on a desktop screen, that's one thing. On that $1,000 machine sitting in your pocket, that's another thing altogether. Okay. So want to make sure that you've got these three questions in that first fold before people scroll. Okay. Now, here's another thing. Okay. And this is a fundamental thing these days. This is a non-negotiable. What does it look like on mobile? Right. We look at all of these websites, but I'd say 90% of them look horrible on mobile. All right. And they're missing massive conversion elements on mobile. Okay. And we'll talk about what those elements are here in a minute. But, this latest statistic that I've read is that 70% of all traffic is now mobile. So, and I almost say that that's probably a little bit higher, because when I look at stats, I see a lot more mobile visitors in their analytics than I do actual people on laptops and other kinds of things. So, it makes sense, right, that we should make our website mobile first, right? And we've been talking about this for a decade, so it shouldn't be anything new. In the web design industry, we've been talking about this literally since this thing came out. Okay. Since this thing came out, every single person out there has this sitting in their pocket, and that is how they are finding you. That's where they are researching you. So you want to make sure that it shows up okay on that. If you haven't updated your website, by the way, in the past 10 years, in the past decade, it's about time to do that, I would say. Okay. All right. Now, another thing too, as we're looking at this, right? We want to make sure that our logo doesn't take up too much space. If you notice in this screenshot that I took, um, the logo is taking up nowhere near amount of space that um, that I see a lot, right? A lot of time I'll see the logo taking up about half of the page, right, on mobile, and about a third of the page inside of their, laptop or desktop. Okay, logos aren't important. I'll tell you that right now. People come to your website, right? If they're already on your website, it just needs to have a professional looking logo. Make sure it's not a GIF or some um, something that looks like it was drawn inside of Microsoft Word. Okay, but beyond that, just make sure that it's not taking up too much space, that it looks professional. Now, the second thing to notice on this site is that that phone number is right up top, isn't it? Okay. And guess what? It's clickable, right? If you go to their website, it's actually clickable on your phone and it pulls open the phone because that's the number one action that we in the roofing industry want to happen. Okay. So make sure that just do that, right? And then the rest of the grunt test, okay. What do you do? How do you solve my problem? And how do I get it? Are answered on mobile as well. Okay, next, what is built on matters? Okay, I see way too many websites that are built on things like Squarespace or Wix or um, all these different platforms that pigeonholes you into paying that site for forever. Okay, if they raise their prices, you're stuck there unless you want to rebuild your site and move it somewhere else. Okay, I highly, highly, highly recommend WordPress. WordPress is universal, just about. It's every single host in the entire world, has it, and you can move it from one web post to the other. And so we want to make sure that we are building our foundation, right? Again, remember your reputation. This is part of your reputation. This is our foundation. We want to make sure that we're building that on that solid foundation, right? That we can own. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of AI builders come out into the market. They're building these, the AI builders are building these sites and they're not going to be easy to move. Okay. So be very wary of that. And make sure that you're not stuck in one place. Make sure that you own it and make sure it has maximum compatibility again with iPhones and everything else. Right. Now, here's my number one thing of why I love WordPress. Google loves it. Okay. Google, by the way, the main company of Google, Alphabet, right, has invested heavily into Automatic, which is the base company of WordPress, which is WordPress is a free software, right? It's not like Wix, it's not like Squarespace that are owned by a private company or private equity or anything like that. WordPress is owned by Automatic, but it's released as open source. Okay, so therefore there and it's been that way for 20 years. There are lots and lots of developers out there in the entire world that are developing on it all the time. Okay, so the platform itself, the underlying platform, the underlying company, Google owns a stake in that. So doesn't it make sense if you're trying to get ranked on Google that, you put it on a platform that they really love? It does to me. Okay. So, and additionally, if you look like we have done we have looked at just about every single market, rankings in every single market, the top companies in every single market, almost all of them have one thing in common, and that's WordPress. Okay. The other thing, by the way, is that they're all .coms, either .coms or .nets is what I've seen. Okay. So take that for whatever it's worth. If you're trying to build on a .biz or .whatever, or I don't know, a .org website, you might want to consider switching your domain over to .com or .net. Okay. Okay. Now, and this is something that I tell every single client that comes into us is that your website is the absolute central hub of your digital marketing world. All right. This is where we're going to send all traffic to is your website. So, and I tell them this, and I'm telling you this now is because, a lot of companies that I come across, they're focused on Instagram or they're focused on Facebook or TikTok, right? Well, what was happening last year at this time with TikTok? TikTok almost got banned completely, right? From the US. If that was your sole digital marketing strategy, okay, and they got rid of it, guess what? All of your eggs are in one singular basket, and you don't own that basket. WordPress, your website, if you do own that, which I highly, highly, highly recommend that you own your own website, right? You can move it from place to place, from web hosting company to web hosting company, right? If you absolutely need to. Okay. So, but just know that we want to drive all traffic to your website because guess what? That's where we're going to convert. Okay. Yeah. Conversions happen on Google Business Profile. Yes. Conversions happen on local service ads. Yes. Conversions happen on Facebook and all these different places. But the vast majority of where we're going to convert your visitors into actual like customers is going to be from your website. Okay. So just know that we're going to drive all traffic to that. Okay. Let's talk about these conversion elements, right? How do we get to a high conversion website? Okay. How do we get to that almost 20% or even higher, right? Of all visitors coming to a website converting into a call, a form fill, or something else. Okay. All right. First one, let's talk about page structure. The biggest mistake that I see when I go and look at websites, right, are that beyond some of the things that I've already talked about, like the big logo and stuff like that, the biggest mistake that I see is that they built a one-page website. And these got really, really popular in the web design industry about 5, 6 years ago. Okay. And I see them a lot. The problem is that it's only one page. And I'm coming at it from a conversion optimization standpoint, but also from a search engine standpoint, because that's the basis of how a lot of traffic is driven. All right. And if you only have one page website, you don't have enough text. I'll just flat out tell you that. And Google consumes text. Okay. And we want to give Google the things that it consumes on a regular basis. Okay. So I recommend that you have at least 5 pages on your website. Your home page, right, which is your most important page. This is the most important page because you're telling Google exactly what you do and you're telling the visitor what you do. Okay. Number 2, have an about page. People like to see who they're going to do business with, right? Don't make your company a faceless company, by the way. I see that a lot. Put images, put your bio of the owners and who they're going to work with, maybe the salespeople, the management, and so forth. Have possibly even put the story of how the company, why you even exist. Okay. Maybe it was passed down from generation to generation and it's a multi-generation, company. Have an about page. Make it personalized to the company, give it a voice. Third page here, services, right? I would say at least have one page with your services on it. Ideally, you would have a page with your service and your location, right, for all of the major metros that you're trying to target. Okay. So here in College Station, we would want roofer or roofing College Station as a page. We would want, siding if we offered siding College Station. We would want to have a page of windows if I offered windows College Station. And so forth, right? We want to make sure that we're telling Google and we're sending the signals to Google about what we do, as well as telling the people coming to our website what we do. Okay. That's kind of an important thing, right? If they don't know you have a service or provide a service, how are you going to sell it? Okay. So that's the third page. Next page, I'd like to see locations. Okay. And we just talked about that, but I'd like to see like the actual city name page, right, on your website. So make sure that that's there. Other bonus type pages. Well, sorry, the last page, the 5th page, there's contact, right? Give them a way to get in contact with you. All right. Now, bonus pages, I recommend that you have a get an estimate page, right? Where people can get in touch with you. As you can see on this site there, that's one of the main call to actions everywhere is get an estimate. You want to make sure that you make it easy, okay, on your visitors to actually hire you. So another bonus, I would say, have your reviews. Another page, possibly have your frequently asked questions. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But each of these are super, super important to build trust. And this is really the foundation of everything that it comes down to with conversion. Building a high conversion website is making sure that you're positioning yourself as a trustworthy roofer. Okay. That you're going to show up on time, that you can do the work, that you're going to do it professionally, right? Your website is your 24-hour a day, 7 day a week employee selling you. So make sure that it looks good. Okay. All right. Next, let's talk about reviews. Right, reviews we all know is super, super important. In fact, they're getting more and more important with the with AI optimization, with getting ranked in Chat GPT or inside of any of the LLMs, the chat right out there. Gemini, Perplexity is one, Claude is another. I mean, there's all these different ones, but they all have a foundation of your reviews. Well, guess what? Your website also should have a foundation of those reviews. So make sure you're leveraging your reviews and posting those. We have a tool that pulls them automatically onto every single website. We have to go in and periodically update those things, kind of a thing, and pull them down, but they grab them from all of the main places. Okay. Leverage those reviews, demonstrate the trust that other people have placed in you. Okay. And that you have actually, done the work and they loved it, kind of a thing. Next, sales copy. This is one of the biggest pieces. This is the whole story brand framework idea here, but this is one of the biggest pieces that I see that is misunderstood and are just flat out missing. Okay. They talk about themselves, the roofing companies talk about themselves, or they don't provide any kind of sales copy whatsoever. Okay. Your sales copy can make or break your conversions. I'll say that again. Your sales copy can make or break your conversions. So make sure that it's up to speed, that it's good, right? So as you can see from this one, we've got just a little screenshot here of the same website. As I scrolled down a little bit, where it shows a picture of their van, right? One of their trucks. Embrace peace of mind under your roof. Okay. Because that's the thing that's going through your visitors' head is, is this going to get fixed, first of all? And is it going to give me peace of mind? Am I going to be able to sleep at night knowing that my roof is taken care of? Okay. Okay. So next, I say, show your work, right? If you do great work, take photos of it and display it on your website. Okay. I say go further than that. Obviously, you want to show it on like Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and X, Pinterest if you've got it, right? I say to leverage every piece of your work as much as you possibly can. Okay, so why not have a latest projects section on your website? Okay, so it's pretty easy to do, but yet very few roofers actually do this or keep this up to date. We require all of our clients to give us a minimum of 4 projects every single month. Okay. So super, super important, because guess what is going through people's minds when they come to your website, when they're researching you, because that's exactly what they're doing when they come to your website, is what kind of work do they do? Is it shoddy work? Is it good work? Okay. Can they actually fix my roof? And is it going to break the bank? That's the other question going through their mind, right? Um, and are they going to destroy, my bushes when they come out, or any of those kinds of things? But if they can see clearly in your projects here, in your project photos, that you do great work, then it just builds more trust. Okay. And that's, again, what we're trying to do here. Next piece, authentic images. As I go into these websites and I look at them, almost none of them have actual authentic images on their site. And that they just have stock photography, right? They don't have their project photos. They don't have photos of them and their team. They don't have, any kind of authentic images. Well, guess what's going to set you aside, right? Is going to be those types of pictures on your website. Okay. So make sure that you put them. I like the pictures of the team. My favorite picture is a picture of the team that's kind of like with a drone coming from up above, with you and your team nicely professionally dressed in front of your trucks. Okay. That's my favorite type of picture. The other types of pictures that I like to see are smiling faces, right? with the customers, the end customers saying that they're satisfied, that they're happy with you, kind of a thing. Okay. So, but take the thing to take away here is that don't use just stock photography. If you have to, you have to, but change that out as fast as you possibly can with your own photos. Okay. Now I put this in here because this is part of the framework, the story brand framework. People don't they want to know what the plan is, right? And Donald Miller actually says to drill it down to a three-step plan, make it easy for them to make a decision. If you make it 10 steps, which I had tons and tons of clients, stepping us through and building the plan with all 10 different steps. Well, guess what? It didn't convert. It just didn't convert. Okay. The second that we switched it over to Donald Miller's framework with the three-step plan, guess what? Sites started converting because it makes sense to people. Okay. So in this case, it says, step one is schedule a free estimate. Step two, customize your roofing plan. Step three, installation and follow up. Right. We're gonna do the installation and we're gonna make sure that everything is good. Okay. So you can combine steps into one, just make it simple, right? Make it a simple plan. The simpler, the better for sales. Next is trust badges, right? This element is kind of important, right? And I get a lot of questions about what do we put on in this section? Well, to me, I say to put, your vendors, your manufacturers, obviously, like they have right here. All right. I also say any kind of associations that you're in on our own website on roofingsites.com. We've got NRCA, RCAT, HARCA, right? All of those associations that we belong to are on there. Okay. If you're part of the Better Business Bureau, right, which I highly recommend that you do because that builds trust, put that logo on there, right? Link to your Better Business Bureau page, just like you do your Facebook and Instagram page. Okay. Don't be afraid of that. Chamber of Commerce is another big one, right? Chamber is super, super important in pretty much every single metro across the United States. I've built, massively good, I've been a chamber member of the BCS Chamber of Commerce here for 20 plus years, ever since I've been in business, right? And I've got some great friends there. I've built some great relationships. I highly recommend that you do the same. Become a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Put that logo on your website. Link to your listing, okay, for that, right? And give Google an easy path to find that, and all of these signals build up to get you ranked, really. Okay. And I know that's not what we're talking about here today, but your website obviously is the foundation of your rankings. Okay. Next, make sure that you answer questions on your website. People come, they've got questions. They've got tons of questions, right? Take all of your questions that you get asked on a regular basis, right? Frequently asked questions, put those on your website, answer them on your website. We do that for our clients, and it is a major factor, I believe, in conversions, right? And for them to say, yes, I'm going to give them a call. I'm going to make them part of the couple of people that I'm going to call, a couple of roofing companies that I'm going to call. Maybe you're the only roofing company that they're going to call if you pick up the phone, right? If you start the sales process early, and we're not even going to get into that part, but put your frequently asked questions up on your website. This helps not only with conversions, this also helps with SEO. I'll tell you from my standpoint, I know for a fact that this helps with search engine optimization. Okay. So just make sure that you put those. Have a whole page by itself with a whole bunch of them listed. Break them up into different categories, right? Answer all of the questions that you can possibly think of. And if you can't think of any, guess what? ChatGPT can help you out with that and can help you build that frequently asked questions list. Next, let's talk about some tips and tricks. These are things that we've learned over the past 20 plus years of being in the industry and helping roofers grow. Okay. Number one, speed matters. Google came out a few years ago and said that speed is very, very important. All right. If you're going to rank on Google, your website has to be fast. In fact, they built a tool that you can check your website on, right, to see if they like it or not, basically. And they built it into Google Search Console, right, which will tell you there as well. And so you want to make sure that it's fast. All right. And not only for the end user, and this is really why Google placed it into their algorithm there, And then more importantly, told us that that was going to be part of their algorithm, which they never do. Okay. Um, they did that for a reason. That's because, again, it comes down to that grunt test. Okay. 3 seconds. You have literally 3 seconds to keep people on your website. Okay. So make sure that you speed up your website. If you don't know how to do that, there's all sorts of tricks for that. We chose a hosting company that we have all of our clients on. That's one of the biggest focuses that they have. If we upload an image that it's slowing down the website, they go in, they downsize it, they optimize it. Okay. So that it doesn't slow the website down anymore. Okay, so that's speed. Speed matters greatly. Next tip, track and test, right? That's what marketing is all about is tracking things, making sure that if you're running ads that you have clicks coming through to the website and all sorts of things, right? But we're marketing is all about testing and tracking. Okay. So what do you track? Well, you track your sales copy, right? Um, or not track that. Sorry, you test that. And how do you test that? This is called A/B split testing. Again, it goes back to um, older, right, quote unquote, marketing that was done at the turn of the 1900s century, whatever the century that 20th century is. That right? We're in the 21st century. So at the beginning of the 20th century, uh, they the direct marketers came up with this technique, right? This strategy to do A/B split testing. And A/B split testing is simply um, testing and putting up one versus another. Okay, so the direct marketers, right? They would take this massively huge list of 25 million people, and they would say, okay, we're going to test with 100,000 or maybe 1,000. Okay. We're going to send out two mailers. The first mailer is going to be almost identical to the second mailer. The first mailer is we're going to test the headline. Okay. First, second one. So those two would be almost identical except for the headline. And it's just A versus B. Which one got more phone calls? Okay. So easy way to do that would be, one phone number versus another phone number. So the idea here is that you're testing element after element after element after element on your entire, in that case, direct mailer. For us, it's a website. So you test all of these different elements like headlines, like pictures, like call to actions, okay? Maybe even a phone number, right? Maybe they would test things like 1-800 versus, local phone number. And what would happen is that with that direct mailer, with that 1,000, that smaller sample, I would say, okay, this was this one right here, right? And they would go through and test 1,000 at a time, 1,000 mails at a time, until they came with this really high conversion, mailer. And then they would send that out to the rest of the list. Okay. And that's how they would get massive, massive conversions. So my point here is let's do this with our websites, right? Let's test our sales copy. Let's test that headline. Let's test the offer itself. Okay. Maybe the offer isn't resonating with the homeowners. Okay. Let's test forms, right? And we've done this extensively. Basically, we tested, we had all sorts of clients that wanted, 10 different form elements. And what we found is that the least amount of form elements that you ask for, the name, address, or the name, phone number, and email versus name, phone number, email, address, what you're looking to have done, all of these different elements, right? Is that the shorter that it came down to, the higher converting that form and that page became. Okay. Button colors. This is a huge one. If you noticed back in my screenshots there, right? Um, the button colors were red. I like red. And I like red because guess why? They stick out. Okay. Now, if your brand is red, maybe you use a different color to make it stand out. But I like red if you can do it because it's just like a stop sign. And that's what I tell everybody. It's like a stop sign. It draws your attention, right? Almost immediately. Yeah, right. And we want that's when we're building buttons, which are call to actions, right? We want to make sure that we are drawing their attention on that page as fast as we possibly can. Okay, so all of these elements, there's all sorts of other things that you can test, but these are the kind of minimum types of things. I say to do this quarterly. Go in and test what's working, what's not working, kind of a thing. How can you do that? Well, Google Analytics has a way to do that. There's other tools that can um, give you heat maps essentially of the visitors on your website. Okay. And make it easier for you to do this A/B split testing. I'm envisioning probably in the next year that there's going to be an AI tool that's going to do all of this, and it's going to adjust all of these things on the fly. Okay, as it figures out, right, does the testing for you. So super important kind of thing to do, right? Another tip: make it as easy as possible for people to contact you. You can't imagine how many websites that I go to that it is really, really hard to find their contact information, like an email address or um, their phone number. Okay. And that's really, if you're making it hard for people to contact you, you're going to have less contacts. You're going to have less people converting into a lead. Okay. So make it as easy as possible. If you noticed back on that mobile version as well as the desktop version, we have the phone number as high up on the page as we possibly can get. Okay. We want to make it super easy for people to hire us. Add videos to your website. Videos sell. I mean, when you've probably been to my YouTube channel, right? At roofingsites.com. You might have listened, you might be listening right now to or watching on YouTube. You might be listening to us on a podcast at this point. But videos sell. They shortcut the know, like, and trust you stages. Okay. And because that's really what it takes to get people to contact you. They have to know you, they have to like you, they have to trust you. Okay. So videos help shortcut that dramatically. All right. Next, let's revamp. Don't let your website sit there for a decade. All right. Revamp your website, and you can make short, small, incremental changes for this, or you can make a whole website revamp. I prefer this short, smaller incremental adjustments. Okay. But keep it up to date with standards these days. Okay. It's kind of like you go to a website, and if it hasn't been updated in a decade, right? Um, it kind of shows because it's not keeping up with today's standards, right? And it's almost like going to, I don't know, a party in a decade old outfit, right? People are going to notice right away that, wow, that you look kind of out of date, right? I grew up in the 80s, so people that dressed in 70s, outfits was very noticeable, and they stuck out like a sore thumb. You don't want to stick out like that because it shows that you just don't care about your website, you don't care about your marketing, and it loses trust right away, right? That if they don't care about their own marketing, their own website, their own social media, their own anything, then why should I trust them with my business? They're not keeping up to date and with the design standards, right? Hopefully that makes sense. This is another one, right? That I'm going to call a ninja hack here is that add chat to your website, add a chat to your website, and then further hook it up to an AI sales bot, right? AI sales bots are out there. There, a lot of them we have them for our clients, and basically it'll handle the conversations for you. And the most important part, it'll handle the conversations for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it becomes an employee. Okay. And your cheapest employee that can help sell you into the next stage, which for y'all is that appointment. Get out on that roof. Right. So add your chat to the website, add as many ways. And really that's where this is coming from. Add as many ways as possible for people to get in contact you and to hire you. Okay. Last tip here, right? Add Roofle to your site. I mean, we're seeing that people are wanting to become more and more self-reliant. Okay. They don't want to contact. Some people just don't want to contact you. They just want to know what it's going to cost. And Roofle has this widget that you can stick on your website that we hook up, by the way, to the AI bot. But Roofle can give them that information that they want and need, which are the estimates, right? And you can put a disclaimer on there that these aren't formal estimates, but we're seeing a lot of our clients who are adding a lot of their leads are coming from those, right? If we put that on their website. So that's kind of a ninja hack there is that if you're the roofer in your area that has Roofle on their website, you're most likely going to get a lot more leads because people are going to go check. They're going to go see what it's going to cost. They're going to, and Roofle, you can set it up to where it's got good, better, best estimates that it'll give to them and put your pricing in there and whatever and all that kind of stuff, right? You can build that all out and have that all ready for them. And then all you have to do is contact them. And guess what? If they know and they understand what it's going to take to get the roof replaced, it's a lot easier of a sell, I think. Okay. Because they are pre-positioned, right? They've already contacted you basically on your website. They've already gotten the estimate. You just have to show up. All right. So who all wants that? I do. I know I love that. And people in this day and age with Uber and with all of the different ways that we can do things on our own, right? Without having to call people. All right. It just makes sense, right? To me. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, so here's the most important tip and trick. Okay. And I've been saying this in a lot of my workshops. Do what everyone else is not doing. That's what's going to make you stand out in your local market. That's what's going to make you the choice versus a choice. If you're doing things, if you're staying on the cutting edge, if you're um, making things happen, right? You're going to stand out. And so we want to do things in marketing that makes us stand out. Okay, Ashley, you asked any tips to get the old school boss to agree with Rufel, not so agreeable to not being in person. Well, it's a first step, right? And that's how it needs to be explained. It's not that you're going to sell them over the phone. You're going to sell them on coming out there and inspecting it and making sure that it matches up with their estimate, and you're going to make sure that they actually need that. So it's a first contact piece, right? And more people want to self-help, and that's all that is. It's they're getting an estimate, right? And it might be more than what you guys are typically doing, right? It shouldn't be if you've updated all your pricing and all that kind of stuff in there. But you don't necessarily need it doesn't need to be the end all be all. In fact, you should follow up with those people, right? To get up on their roof, to meet them in person, because that's where you're going to make the sale. Okay. So it's just another way for people to contact you. Again, we want to make it as easy as we possibly can. Okay. Does that make sense, Ashley? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Cool. All right. I think we're coming up to the end. We have a live assessment. All right. Who is brave enough for me to critique their website? If you're brave enough, let's pull it up live and let's look at it. And we'll quickly go through it. We're getting up almost to an hour here. Okay. Perfect. Good. All right. First thing that sticks out to me is that there's no logo on it. Okay. Contact us, get your free quote. Okay. I would stick with get a free quote, as the call to action instead of contact us. I would make this red here. Okay. Now going back to the grunt test, you've got True Line Roofing, raising the standard one roof at a time, right? It's great that you're saying, True Line Roofing, that should be your logo up over here. Okay. And I'm critiquing it first on desktop and then we'll go into mobile here in a second. Okay. But make sure that I would put your logo up here and then tell them why to hire you right here. Okay. Instead of, stating your name, raising the standard one roof at a time. I have a lot of clients that really, they've had a tagline, right? And that's what this is. This is a tagline. This doesn't really say a whole lot of what you do. Okay. And even in my example, we had a tagline in there. I don't like taglines. Taglines are 1990s, right? I would say in here something along the lines of how you can help them, right? Pass that grunt test, right? What do you do? Roofing. Okay. How can you help me? Right. Raising the standard doesn't tell me how you can help me. All right. Do you need your roof fixed or replaced? We would love to help you. Would be an easier way to, thing to put in there that demonstrates right away what you do. Get your free quote should be red. That should be red as well. This should be get your free quote here or get a free quote up here. Okay. Inside of the navigation, all right, navigation itself, I would put your phone number right here. Okay. Take out home. If you have a logo up here, then most people understand that the logo, when you click on that, it goes to the home page. Okay. This is good. About us, services, blog. If you noticed in our, if you notice in my illustration here, right, we have a website or we have a call to action here, which is the phone number. And then we have the actual call to action right here, which is red. Okay. But we have a menu over here, and that's just simply to help them get to the other pieces of the website, right? I go back and forth whether I want this huge navigation or not with a lot of our clients. I want to keep it as minimalistic as possible because I want to drive them to my call to action, right? Which is essentially what we want to do. We do the same thing on our website on roofingsites.com, same exact thing. We don't have a menu in ours, but we do have our biggest, most important pieces in there, right? So for us, that's our programs, okay, and and our four-step system. Okay, so we follow the same idea here. Okay, back to your website, commercial, residential, right? So in the story brand framework, right, he has here, you know, a way to position yourselves, right, as the trusted experts and the guide in their story here. But he starts with a pushing their pain points, right? So that's why here, embrace peace of mind under your roof, the friendly experts at Pro Roofing, prioritize your home safety and your family's comfort. This is pushing the pain point, right, in the thing that's already going through their mind. Okay. With our website, we say life's too short to keep up with marketing in your roofing company. We understand that most roofers keep up, struggle keeping up with marketing who has time to keep up with that and day-to-day operations. So we're just pushing that pain point a little bit there, right? And I highly, highly recommend that, even before you even put in your services here for commercial and residential. Okay. Roofing at its best, who we are, right? This is your guide section. I would also add in here, by the way, your photos, right? We showed that to you, right here. Take a photo of you and your staff, put that in there, right? Build that trust as fast as you possibly can. Okay. This guide section, this is where you talk about yourselves. This is where you talk about how long you've been in business and so forth, right? And and really, as we move down the page here, we offer financing. That's great. Love that. Why work with us? Licensed, bonded, and all these different. No one's going to read all this, by the way. Okay, this is all cool, but no one's going to read all of that. Good. These looks like your photos and not stock photography, so that's good. I like that. You've got the reviews in there, right, to where they're being dynamically pulled from Google. That's great. I love that. Get your free quote is here, right? So you are going through and you're making sure that this call to action is at least a couple more on your website than normal. When I go to websites, I see typically one call to action button, right? And Donald Miller calls these things cash registers, right? Because they make you money. Well, when you go to Walmart, you don't see just one cash register, right? You see 30, 40 of them. Well, we should probably do the same thing on our own websites, right? That Walmart does, even on its own website, right? It has tons and tons of call to actions, right? Let's give them as many opportunities. So I like that, but I would further state, put it in every section here, okay? And make it stand out. You're using, orange over here and blue over here. If you're going to stick with the orange, if orange is your colors, right, then that's great. I would stick with orange because it looks like you've got some orange right here just to make it stand out. I like red. That's just me. Okay. But red on red probably wouldn't work. So yeah, you have to do something a little bit different to make it stand out. Areas we service, these are great. I would make sure that these link to, yeah, you do. They're linking to different pages and so forth. Not all of them, it looks like, have a link. So I would make sure that all of them do. And that's it. Now, down here, right, Donald Miller calls this your junk drawer, right? Just like in your kitchen, you've got a junk drawer that you stick everything into. That's where you put the home, maybe the about us, maybe your services, maybe your blog, and so forth, right? Down here. Now, additionally, what I didn't notice on the front page is your blogs, okay? How up to date are you keeping this blog? It looks like fairly regularly. You haven't updated that since May, so maybe June, July. We're in August right now, so we want to make sure that we're keeping those things up to date. Oh, hey, here's your logo. Is that the same website? It's the same website. It's strange that the front page doesn't have the logo on it. Um, anyways, I would get with your designer on that one. Make sure that your logo is up there. But I would put your blogs down here because remember your homepage should be your jumping point to absolutely everything else, right? So all of your services should be on there, right? With our clients, we've got the three-step plan. We've got, about them. We've got, jumping off points to each of their services as we scroll down the page. Got their latest projects, got their latest news, which are their blogs. Okay. I have a broken image on that one. Not sure why. But in each of these, right, get an estimate, call to action buttons are in every single section. Okay. And they match the same, right? Marketing in general, you have to not report, sorry, you have to repeat yourself a lot, right? That's what good marketing is. Think about Chick-fil-A, right? If y'all are in the South, I think y'all are getting it up there in the North. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about that, but Chick-fil-A they repeat, eat more chicken, right? All the time in all of their advertising and all of their marketing and everywhere, eat more chicken. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're repeating our call to actions over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. Is really where I was going out there. We want to make sure that it's repeated. He said, love Chick-fil-A, worked there for 10 years, love it too. My daughter, she was 2, right? She started calling it Chick-away. Can we go to Chick-away? Right? It was just the cutest thing. So that's what we call it here in our family, Chick-away, right? So um, who doesn't love Chick-fil-A? I mean, come on. Yeah. And sorry, Rochelle, you probably don't get it there in South Africa. Sorry about that. Yeah. Maybe one day you'll get some Chick-fil-A. Okay, so is this all making sense so far? On this, some few pieces here that I would definitely change on that. Other things, beyond that, if we went into your services page, um, which I can't click on that, make sure that you can click on that. But roof repairs, okay, looks good-ish, right? Stock photography, put your own photography up there, right? Like this would have been better up here, I think, than stock photography. Um, Stock photos are great, but to me, with roofers, we want to make sure that we're putting your photos in, we're demonstrating your expertise at any given point, which is why we ask all of our clients to give us 4 projects per, images, project photos, right? And I like the before, during, and after photos. On the after, make sure that you've got these types, and that's great. The drones, those are great. I like the photos also from in front of the house, kind of from a viewpoint is down, right? With your sign or truck in the front and the home in the background. Hopefully, a homeowner in the background if they're willing to do that. Okay. But those are the kind of photos that I like to see. One, they're branded. Number two, it's harder for competitors to come in there and steal your photos. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting that you have the logo down here. Was that in the footer on the front page? It was. Okay. Yeah. Right. So, and by the way, yes, definitely put all of your social media down here. At a minimum, put it down in the footer in the junk drawer, right? Links to all of your services, all of your areas. I would go further and embed a Google map down here, right, to give people directions to your office. But otherwise, decent website. Let's chat. Looks like you've got a chat featured there. I would hook that up to a robot nowadays, right? Um, you definitely want to be there to help, but if you train AI, an AI sales bot, then you don't have to worry about that piece for the most part. Just check in on it periodically. Office managers on them personally, yep. But what happens when she goes to the restroom or goes eat lunch or goes home, right? On her phone. Oh, even better, right? So she's getting bugged at all times. And I've got a story about that from a roofer, but that have to save that one for a different time. Okay. All right. Contact us. Let's look at this page. Tried her. We tried to give her AI. She's not ready to give them up. That's fine. And you could have it answer during off hours. Okay. If you, that's easy to set those things up to do that. Okay. So y'all's contact, right, has a lot of items on here. I would split test that, right, to see if maybe first name or just name, email, phone, and what's your problem. I would split test those two things. Karen at KTL Roofing, I would make that like sales, right? At ktlroofing.com. The rest of it is pretty much the same. Areas of service. Let's look at, all right, none of these work. None of that clicks either. I would make sure that all of those link similar to, and I didn't go into them, but it looked like they linked on the front page to the different areas like Callaway, Kentucky. Oh, this isn't even your website. Interesting. Okay. I would have that page on your website, right? So that when people clicked on Line Kentucky, that there's a Line Kentucky roofing Line Kentucky website or page on your website. Okay. That's how I would change that one instead of going to an external website. Let's put in the biggest keyword, which the biggest keyword out there is roofing and roofing contractor, roofing company, right? So make sure it's one sort of variation of that you can click to, and I would put that on every single page in the footer of every single page on your website. Commercial. Let's look at this one. Okay, you've got your photos. I think that's your photo. That's not stock. Is that stock? Ours. Okay, good. All right. Um, so that's good, right? I like your photos. That's good. But there's not a lot of text here, right? Let's story brand this page. If someone is looking for commercial roofing, let's tell them, give them the grunt test. And by the way, this is a good example. Every main landing page on your website should be story branded. Okay. It should have the grunt test in the very top. What do you do? How do you solve my problem? And how do I get it? Okay. Yeah, and have all of those other trust elements in there. You're missing your again your blogs. You're missing your reviews. You're missing the trust elements, the trust images, right? Um, Down here, we want to just basically follow the format of the story brand framework for every single one of these pages. Okay. Um, the navigation is different for each of these different pages. That's interesting to me, right? It should match um, the and be the same for every single page on your website for the most part. I mean, yeah, you can have different headers, which it looks like this one has a different navigation, a different header. Um, but again, this should stick out. It should draw my eye because that's what I want them to do. Okay. And really just draw your attention over there. Ooh, this is not mobile friendly. Eesh. Yeah. So, and maybe it is, maybe it actually is on the phone. I see a lot of sites that are, so you actually have to test them on the phone. But um, for the for the past decade, right, we've been doing, and more than a decade, honestly, we've been doing what's called responsive web design, right, and making the website respond to the platform. Okay, so when I drag it over to being this size into mobile size, then it actually responds to it. Okay, so like for instance, this one, right, on this site, right, the pro site is mobile friendly automatically. Okay, so I would have to check honestly how your site looks on mobile on my actual phone. Let me type that in real quick. It's on Wix. Oh, okay. So that you're falling into that issue that I was talking about earlier, right? Okay. So as I'm looking at this on mobile, it looks okay. It's still missing the logo right? Which is okay, but I don't see a phone number very easy for me to get to, right? You want that very, very top. Um, your get a free quote button doesn't, it doesn't really stick out. It blends in with everything else, with all of the same colors as the rest of the website. Wix, yeah, I would highly recommend that you get that onto a WordPress platform, right? And Wix is great. Don't get me wrong; it's easy. It's easy to work on, but inside of WordPress these days, the theme that we use is easy to work in, right? So it's just like Wix. You can get in there, and it's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get interface. Um, you can of course get geeky and put all the code and all that kind of stuff behind it, but you know, um, we have really good SEO and we're kind of scared to switch it, and you should be, right? But if you build it all with all the same components, all the same text, right, which is what Google really cares about, and have all the same URLs. Now, if you can't have the same URLs, we put into place 301 redirects, 301 redirects that redirects from one page to the other. We found that if you do that, you keep the text pretty much the same, or you improve on it, maybe put more text in there that's actually better optimized and so forth, then you typically are not going to have very many, issues with search engine optimization. Okay. So just something to consider. But that's my biggest thing is that I would say get off of Wix, if you can. Okay. All right. So coming back here, thank you, by the way, for doing that. Hopefully you got something out of that, Ashley. Hopefully you can take that back to your boss and say, hey, we need to update our website and get it off of Wix and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've given you all a website checklist here. Okay. You can feel free to download it, use the QR code, or go to roofingsites.com/website dash checklist. Okay. If you're listening to this on the podcast later, checklist, it has, I think 27 points, 21 points, something like that on it. These are all the things that we make sure that every single one of our websites has. Okay. And it'll take you to a Google Doc in order to get that. Next, if you do not have a free copy of my book in your hand, or you don't have a copy of my book in your hand, we will send you a free digital copy. Just go to go.roofingsites.com and you can get a free digital copy of my book right now. Okay. Again, that's go.roofingsites.com, or use the QR code that's on the screen right now. And you can get 336 pages and 20 years of knowledge of working on websites and around inside of digital marketing for roofers. And this is the exact blueprint, right, of exactly how to get and double the size of your company, right? And ultimately, that's what our goal is here. But if you follow every piece of advice in my book, I know that you will double the size easily. Okay. Last, if you like knowing how all this works, but you hate doing it yourself, we would love to help you. Just go to roofingsites.com/schedule to schedule an appointment with us, and we will help diagnose what's wrong with your marketing right now. We have a huge checklist that we use for that. I think it's 80 points or so. We look through your website, we look through your Google ads, your local service ads, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all sorts of things, anything and everything digital marketing. We look through that. We will give you an assessment of how good that your marketing is. Okay. On a percentage rate, most people that come to us score pretty low on that, right? Like typically less than 20% out of 100% is of what they should be doing for digital marketing to really make sure that their marketing is really on point and they're able to grow. If you need help, we'd love to help you. And just go to the roofingsites.com/schedule. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Roofer Growth Hacks. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you connect with me online on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or wherever that you're finding me. And while you're there, make sure you give us a big Aggie Gig'em thumbs up and subscribe to whatever channel that you are listening to. I also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R roofing marketing system. If you're a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Also, this past year, I published my book, The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. If you're a roofing company owner and don't have this book in your hands, I'll send it to you for free, at least a digital copy of it. Just go to go.roofingsites.com and I'll send you that free digital copy of my book. Well, roofers, join me next time when we connect with another great roofing entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter. Thanks and gig 'em.